Hello, everyone. Welcome to Otaku Talk. It's me, your boy, your host, OD. And today, I wouldn't really call this a review of chapter 1089 of One Piece. We're going to be doing something a little bit different. So, as you can see, not in my normal location, not in my normal room, not in my normal setup. I recently moved. The new chapter should be coming out tomorrow, and I haven't really thought about how I'm going to set up with this new living situation, how I'm going to set up my camera and all that. I think I'm going to be doing it in this room, which is going to, definitely come with some of its own issues and stuff, but that's for me to worry about and figure out. But I'm still trying to figure out how I'm going to set up and use my camera and whatnot. But this is less of a review of the chapter and more of me just talking about a couple key things in this chapter that I just really wanted to get my opinions and thoughts out on before the next chapter release. That way I could be like, called it. I was originally gonna just do like a combination kind of review when the next chapter came out, but I just couldn't help myself. You feel me? So it's not gonna be that long. It'll probably be like 5-10 minutes tops of me just addressing a bunch of things that happened in this chapter and my thoughts on them. In addition to that, I'm also going to be talking about the Gear 5 controversy and schism going on, just how polarizing Gear 5 is in terms of the anime. So, without much further ado, let's get into this review. All right. So, the number one thing I want to talk about right now is the giant hole where Lelucia once was, and the fact that the sea level has risen by about a meter, which is about 3 feet, right? And so, one of the biggest things we have to talk about is obviously the comparison to Ennis Lobby, right? Ennis Lobby has that giant hole around it. We've never known about it. We all kind of just assumed it was a quirk of the ocean, right? And now we're seeing, okay, where the hole in Lucia is a direct parallel to the hole in Ennis Lobby. So now, if you start thinking about it, it makes you go, okay, so was this weapon previously fired on the location of Ennis Lobby, and then they built, a marine headquarters or a judiciary place on top of that, right? And so we see throughout the chapter, they show us various locations in the east, south, west, and north blues, right? And I know that Oda does things very intentionally, so I'm very curious as to why he's specifically showing us specific people in specific places, right? Water 7 is obvious. We have the what is that bridge called? Give me 1 second. Wolf something. Tequila Wolf. There we go. We have that bridge with Tequila Wolf, and also with this whole like sea rising thing, it makes me ask and wonder a lot of things and ask a lot of questions. First of all, is the purpose of Tequila Wolf to kind of try to avoid this type of situation? Is that like I always thought it was a means of having better accessibility to get from island to island, location to location, because One Piece is a world that is surrounded in seawater, and you have to travel by ship. So what if there was an easier way to get from island to island that was controlled by one entity, aka the world government, the Celestials, and that would allow them to get where they needed to be without having to go through the dangers of sea travel? And so while I still think that is the case, I think that Tequila Wolf is also going to serve as a means of transportation once some of these islands get overwhelmed by water, if this is a concern that the powers that be have. So they're creating this bridge that sits multiple like meters above sea level in order to avoid, the sea. Also, it just speaks to a lot of what we see in One Piece in terms of, we have the Aqua Laguna and how Water 7 constantly has to build itself up in order to avoid, getting submerged under sea. We see that the way Wano was built, it was built in a way that avoids it being submerged under sea. The celestial dragons, the Goros, they live on Mary Joie, which is thousands of meters. I'm just spitballing. I don't know the exact measurements, but thousands of meters above the sea level. Right, there is a reason that this high locale is so treasured and revered. And now I'm starting to think that it has something to do with these weapons and the sea in general, right? Also, another thought that I have is just that if the sea level has been rising for many reasons, potentially even the use of this weapon, then perhaps there are, just like Wano, a lot of hidden artifacts, treasures, and stuff in the sea that we don't know about, hidden civilizations that, have been completely forgotten about. Now, you would think that there would be, some kind of information given by the merman. Somebody would have seen it, but it's very, very easily missed. We see it in Skypiea where no one could find, the gold city, right? But it was hidden underneath the clouds. I think we're gonna get something similar, akin to that. Um, we just have a lot of moments in the series where people think something doesn't exist anymore or is gone and has secretly survived. And I really think that this is just Oda's way of alluding to something along that path happening. Also, because of how long it took me to get this review out, I watched a bunch of other reviews. I'm going to try my best to keep my thoughts pure. But something I do want to discuss is something Sawyer7 said, which is another use for Tequila Wolf is the fact that we're seeing with this siege that being able to get, food, water, supplies is very important. And so maybe another reason that Tequila Wolf is being built is so that in the event that the sea levels do rise to a tremendous degree, that they'll still be able to supply themselves with food and stuff, because like I said before in other reviews, they don't really have farms, they don't really do a lot of, menial work. They do have slaves and stuff, but I don't think they have places where they can grow. So I think all their stuff comes from the lower levels. And so I think this was a plan to account for that. Another theory I had as to why, the sea level was rising, because, you would think that the sea level would drop. I was thinking that maybe it's a matter of it's getting into the One Piece world's core, and magma and stuff is flowing out, creating like another layer of land, if you will, pushing up the water, pushing up the existing like water and stuff further up. That's the only idea I have. The only other thing I can possibly guess is simply that, One Piece's Earth or One Piece's world is different than our world and doesn't work in the exact same way. But I definitely, the sea level rise by 1 meter is going to be something that is very, very important to the series. All right, so something else I want to talk about in this chapter is what's it called? Aokiji and not Aokiji, Kizaru and what's his name? Is it Saturn? They're still on their way to, well, not on their way. They're at Egghead right now, and they're kind of halted right now because there's a situation going on, right? And so they cannot commence the siege. And you have Setomaru talking to Kizaru, and he's essentially like, "Hey, let us go." And he's like, "Obviously, I can't do that. I'm a pawn." And I'm really, really excited for this series of chapters. One, I have been waiting such a long time to see Kizaru in action. Anyone who knows, he's one of my favorite admirals, not because of himself or his personality or anything like that, but purely because of his devil fruit. I believe that he has one of the most powerful devil fruits in all of One Piece. I'm a big anime fan, big anime nerd, big comic book fan, and one of the strongest powers in all of fiction is that of light, being able to move at light, being able to, attack with light, all those things. And so, in my opinion, I feel like he should be, the strongest of all the admirals. But for whatever reason, he's not. Maybe Oda is doing a gag. Maybe Oda is just, trying to throttle him so that, when we finally see him pop off, it is amazing and tremendous. But but yeah, I can't wait to see this fight. I really hope I'm not disappointed. I know Oda has been trying to balance his power with his personality, but I really hope he doesn't do that here. I really hope that Kizaru takes this super serious. We've seen in the past, he's always had this cocky attitude, and he's always kind of let people go, things happen, unless he was directly ordered to do something. He doesn't really go much outside of the bounds of that, but now he's being directly ordered to bring the Straw Hats to justice and stuff like that. So I really, really cannot wait to see this fight, and I have more to say about that towards the end when we talk about what happens at the end of the chapter. We also get a little flashback with Kizaru when he's much younger. He's got like a little beanie on, and he's with a younger Vegapunk and Sentomaru. So I would love to get more flashbacks about that, more flashbacks about how Vegapunk synthesized his powers and made his lasers. Something really, really curious that intrigued me was when Saturn was talking about. Well, first of all, before I get into that, Saturn is cold blooded. He is hella cold blooded because basically he asked for a status report on the ships that fled from Egghead, right? And this is some time after we left Egghead last. So this doesn't start right when we left. This is a little bit like maybe like a day or so or a couple days after we were last at Egghead. And basically, we get another O'Hara incident type deal where ships are leaving, and he's basically like, they might know something, get rid of them. And Jesus Christ, the world government, the Gorosei are savages. The other thing I wanted to talk about in this instance was the fact that he talks about Jewelry Bonnie, and he basically goes, "Oh, Kuma's daughter, she has no benefit to us. Leave her there. She's just a girl." Now, in some of the, I've read all three translations by OP scans, by One Piece chapters, CCB scans, and now I'm looking at the original as we speak, and I'm very curious as to why she is referred to as just a girl, especially in the other two scans. It seems like they say a little girl. So a big theory when we first got introduced to Joribani was she was, not the age she's portraying herself as. And a lot of us thought she was much, much older than she actually was. So this would be a huge turn of events. This would be a huge subversion of expectations if um, Jory Bonnie was actually younger than she presents herself to be. It would make a lot of sense. It would, what's it called, justify maybe her appetite, her childish behavior at times, the way she does her not makeup, lipstick. But then again, I believe Big Mom did her makeup like that, so I don't know. But then again, Big Mom was like a child at heart, so there's a lot of things going on here that I'm very curious about. It could just be another thing where me as the reader is looking a little bit too much into it. For example, how a lot of us look too much into Garp calling Dragon like I forgot what the line was, but for a long time we didn't think Garp was Dragon's dad because he called him Luffy's father, but not his son. But then that got fixed later, so it could just be us kind of going above and beyond, right? Now, the very last part of the chapter is actually don't even want to get there yet. Sorry, I keep skipping things. To one thing before that. So York is pleading to the Gorosei for her life. She's like, "Hey, I'm the one who snitched. You're supposed to reward me. You're supposed to hook me up. What's going on with that? Don't you want someone else to create another mother flame so you can use that weapon again?" The Gorosei think about it and they're like, "Okay, yeah, you're right. That makes sense. We'll protect you because yeah, we do need someone to create this mother flame." Now, I'm getting the impression that the mother flame is essentially like nuclear fusion, right? Or is it fission? One of those two. Like this is like the equivalent of nuclear power. I can't wait till we find out more about why like electricity does not exist in this world and stuff like that. But it seems like she has the ability to create a lot of power. And this was alluded to like when we first get to Egghead, and I believe they ask Lilith like how is everything powered, and she's like essentially says something along the lines of, well, you could say it's powered by flame. So whatever they use to power all of Egghead Island basically maybe like a lesser form of what York gave them to power the weapon that they fired. It kind of reminds me a lot of like when NL got to the moon and used his Delph to power up the city and stuff like that. So this is really, really, really important. I'm also curious about, how many times has this weapon been used? So far, we see the two instances, Lelucia and this lobby, but I'm positive that this is probably a weapon that's been used before. I'm also curious if there's any involvement with like Long Ring Longland and just no other elevated cities or places that have unique terrains and geography in order to combat against, submersion in water. Now we get the absolute coldest, coldest, coldest final chapter page, and we see that this entire conversation has been York talking under duress. So the entire Straw Hat crew, and I believe, do we see some Seraphim? No, I don't see some Seraphim. So it's either assumed that they've been defeated or that they're under their control now. But we do see Usopp and Frankie and other people that were petrified in stone there as well. So I can't wait to see what happens, because I believe this is Oda doing tremendous like story work here, and basically what's happening is we see Zoro holding a sword to York's throat, pretty much. We see Usopp holding the transponder snail, and probably the one who's feeding her the things to say. We see Luffy just looking over, just eating some meat. Sanji making food, Nami with a little gun. We see my boy Lucci in the back, just kind of like, how did I get into this? And I don't know. They look so tough right now. I just love it. And the question on everyone's mind is, how did we get here, right? And so I just love how confident they look. They look so confident, especially like Zoro right now, and Usopp. Honestly, they're giving off such like come at me bro vibes. Like the moment I saw this, it just feels like Luffy and the rest of his crew are pretty much doing.
Pull up on me. Pull up on me. Pull up on me. For real, if y'all want to pull up on me, pull up on me. Pull up on me. Pull up, pull up on me. Pull up on me.
So I think what Oda's been doing with all the other Yonko is been showing their power, right? We saw what Shanks did. We saw what Garp's doing. We're seeing a bunch of, the true powers of people, right? And, a lot of people have problems with how, Luffy won his fight with Kaido. I had problems with that too. And, sometimes it kind of doesn't feel like Luffy quite earned things. Like, yes, he fought tooth and nail, clawed his way to victory and stuff like that. But, like, it still feels weird to call him a Yonko, right? And so I think what these next chapters going to be is the reintroduction of the Straw Hat crew, and is going to show you why they are deserving of the title of Yonko and Yonko crew. We see how strong Yonko are. We've been told time and time again that you're never supposed to mess with the Yonko. You let them do whatever. They're emperors of the sea. And now we're going to see, with all these ships, with all these vice admirals, with an admiral there, with a Gorosei member there, if Luffy is not only able to like circumvent all, first of all, we're going to see how they handled the Seraphim. And if we're able to see that, and then we're also able to see him take an admiral and a Gorosei member, this is the coming of age for Luffy. Because I've always said I don't want it to be a matter of Luffy being the strongest at the end of the series. I would like a moment where he becomes the strongest, and then some time after that where he just shows people that. That would be really, really cool to me. And also, a bunch of people have already said this already, but this is kind of like a juxtaposition of Sabaody, where, they got completely wiped out. They were out of their league. Now, I would love a situation where, like, no, they are those dudes. They are elite. They're able to handle the Seraphim. I'm wondering how they were able to find out it was York, how they were able to get her to, call off the Pacifista. And just, I can't wait. Mark my words, the next several chapters are going to be flashbacks, letting us see exactly how we got to this current situation. So we are in for an amazing, amazing ride, and I'm here for it. The only last thing I want to talk about is Gear 5. Gear 5 in the anime. It got released, extremely polarizing. I am not surprised. I think as One Piece fans, we need to chill a little bit. Like, for example, Wano pissed me off a lot. Not my favorite arc, and I think a lot of what did the damage for it, besides the pacing and how long it was, and just like certain expectations not being met, in my personal opinion, is the fact that you cannot hype something so much, so perpetually, continuously, and then like not quite deliver. And even if it was like amazing, I still think that just the hype in and of itself would have diminished it anyway. And all I have to say about Gear 5 is I love it. I think it's cool. I think that is how Luffy should fight. I think that's how Oda wants Luffy to fight. It brings that goofy element to One Piece. I've been rewatching the entire series with my girlfriend. Currently, we have just arrived at Water 7, so I'm super excited about that. But like rewatching the series, it reminds me of just like how creative and inventive Luffy was as a fighter. He was extremely limited in what he could do, and so he had to do a lot of crazy things. And we kind of lost that once Gear 3 showed up. Like, well, Gear 4 showed up. It just became more kind of linear punching and just strong and then hockey. And I don't have a problem with hockey. I've talked about this before. But like now I think Gear 5 gets like brings us back to the root of what One Piece is and how Luffy fights, and I have no issue with that. I do have an issue with the fruit being the Nika Nika fruit. I don't think that was necessary. I think it could have been an awakening. I think a lot of people are mad because they wanted it to be a traditional shonen power up. And people have been talking about this. They just wanted Luffy to be strong and like get buffed and all that. And like this is like a weird, like tangential power up, right? It's not an exact like definitive power up like he can like he's just doing weird things. And once again, don't think that's a problem. The only issue I ever really had was like what are his limits? Because at this point it kind of seems like if Oda wanted to bullshit us, he could because we don't know what limits he has and how extensive his turning to an old man is. But yeah, like I always thought Gear 5 was going to be some kind of form of semi Kiken. If you guys remember that, we see that in Water 7 when they're fighting on the train and they fight the noodle dude who's able to control his hair and stuff. And also Lucci is able to use semi Kiken in order to change his hybrid form to make it more buff and stronger or slimmer and faster. And so I thought what was going to happen was Luffy was pretty much going to use that and was going to be able to like control like his hair, pieces of his like skin, similar to how what was her name? Mr. Is it not Golden Week? It was Mr. One's partner. I forget. Miss Doublefinger, right? I thought it was gonna be like that, where he was gonna be able to like control every piece of rubber. He was gonna be like more Mr. Fantastic, where he didn't necessarily have to like stretch like stretch and then stretch back and snap back. He could like stop himself for stretching, pretend like thought it was just going to be complete and absolute control of his rubber. That's not the direction it went, but still, I don't think it's bad at all. But obviously people have problems. I'm okay. I'm glad it's not a Super Saiyan like power. I'm glad it's unique. This is exactly what Oda wanted. I think that from what I heard, I didn't watch the episode, but from what I heard, it was done poorly because it followed the manga exactly, and a lot of people didn't like in the manga how it was split up with Hiyori's story. I think it would have been a lot better if the entire episode just let him be Gear 5 Luffy. I think that I don't know if it's the next chapter because I feel like we got a couple chapters after he turned Gear 5 and we didn't get to see him fight. But I do think that when we get that panel where they're like really going at it, and where Luffy is like jump roping with Kaido and just doing all manner of things, we're really gonna see people be like, okay, nah, Gear 5 goes hard as hell. But yeah, that's all I really wanted to talk about today. I'm sorry that was kind of like all over the place and random and whatnot, but I just really wanted to get my thoughts and stuff out there before the next chapter dropped and just see what happens. But yeah, guys, hope you have a great day. Can't wait for the next chapter. This has been Otaku Talk. It's me, your boy, your host, OD. Take care. Oh, and please make sure to like, share, and subscribe.